The gate creaked open, and the women froze. Beyond the wire, laughter. But not the kind they expected. Cold wind whipped their hair. Mud clung to their boots. Their stomachs growled, a constant, dull pain that nothing could soothe. One of them, Clara, pressed her hand to her chest. The sound of laughter made her chest tighten. It was too bright, too human, too impossible. A guard shouted something. A piece of bread was thrown over the fence. Clara blinked. Her eyes burned from hunger and confusion. The Americans said something strange. Write to your family. The women laughed, nervously. No one had family letters. No one had hope. But the words floated in the freezing air like a puzzle. And in that moment, none of them knew that the first letter would change everything. The camp was a place where fear had its own language. It whispered in the rustle of straw, the scraping of boots on cold concrete, the groan of doors. Each morning, frost coated the wire fences. Every breath hung like smoke in the air, biting. The women shivered in thin dresses meant for spring, not winter. Hunger was constant, a dull, gnawing ache that made limbs weak, hands tremble, and stomachs curl painfully around themselves. Clara tried to remember her last warm meal, potatoes roasted with onions. But memories were fragile here. Smells of boiled cabbage and watery soup replaced them. The other women huddled together in the barracks. Their whispered conversations were interrupted by the guards' boots. Sometimes they laughed cruelly. Sometimes they stared silently. Fear became a game of waiting. Waiting for punishment, waiting for food, waiting for the next piece of news, waiting for hope. Maria, the youngest, whispered one night, "Do you think anyone is out there? My mother, my sister, will they even know I'm alive?" No one answered. The silence became louder than any scream. Even in small moments, the scrape of a broom, the cough of a neighbor, fear lurked. Every glance could be a threat. Every word could be betrayal. But that day, something changed. It started small. A guard handed a woman a piece of chocolate, unbidden. A piano played faintly in a corner, notes hesitant and uncertain. Books were placed on a wooden bench, titles she didn't recognize, but the feel of pages soothed her cracked fingers. Clara wanted to hate them, truly hate them, but she couldn't. One morning, the Americans announced, "You can write to your families." The women laughed. The idea was ridiculous. Who would believe letters would come? Who would trust the enemy to be kind? Still, they wrote. Trembling hands scratched ink on rough paper. Each word was a thread of memory, a confession, a silent prayer. "I don't even know if this will reach them," Clara whispered to Maria, who was wiping tears with the back of her sleeve. "Does it matter?" Maria said. "It feels human." For the first time, days passed. The camp seemed smaller now. Sounds of life, not fear, crept in. Laughter during games, whispered secrets, the scrape of a pencil. One evening, a letter arrived. Not just any letter, a reply. They opened it slowly. Their own words mirrored back, but with understanding, warmth, and love. And for a moment, the world outside the fence existed not as enemy territory, but as a place that remembered them as human beings. The laughter began cautiously. At first it was awkward, embarrassed, but soon it became genuine. Clara read another letter aloud. "Your courage reached us. We live because of your hope. We pray for you every night." The women held hands. Tears fell, unbidden. The guards watched quietly. Even they seemed affected, but said nothing. Clara thought back to her hometown. Roofs burning, streets empty, the faces of neighbors lost to the war. She had been a girl who feared the world. a girl who saw strangers as enemies. But now, here, she saw kindness. Simple, inexplicable, human kindness. If this was kindness, why did it hurt so much? She thought. The camp became a place of contradictions. The Americans would scold, then laugh with them. They would enforce rules, then sneak extra blankets in the night. Music played during marches. Someone left small gifts by the bunks. One night, Clara wrote in her diary, hidden under her pillow, "I wanted to hate them, to despise every smile. But every act of care is a reminder that we are not enemies. We are humans, and that terrifies me." The women began to share stories of life before the war, of birthdays, of stolen kisses, of quiet streets and warm kitchens. The memories were painful and sweet, but they reminded them of a world they might still touch. Letters continued to arrive, replies from mothers, sisters, fathers, distant cousins. The words were simple: "I love you, I remember, I am proud." And with each letter, the walls of fear cracked. Laughter grew, tears flowed freely. The camp, once a cage, became a paradoxical place of hope. Spring came. The snow melted, leaving mud and the smell of earth. The sun broke through clouds for the first time in months. Clara watched the light dance across the fence. She realized she hadn't felt warm in months, not until today. The Americans invited the women to the gate. They hesitated. Memories of cruelty, of punishment, surged up like shadows. But a hand extended. One of the guards smiled, silently. They stepped through, slowly. Each footfall was a small miracle. The wire fences seemed less daunting, the open sky less distant. The world beyond, once terrifying, now felt like it belonged to them too. Clara held Maria's hand. She felt a strange peace. They didn't need to shout or fight. The letters, the laughter, the shared tears had been enough. Clara noticed something simple: the first blade of grass, bending in the breeze. A bird, unseen until now, singing a hesitant song. Small signs of life, of continuity. She remembered the first letter she had sent, trembling and hopeful. How impossible it had seemed. And now, here they were, alive, acknowledged, human again. The women gathered, looking back at the camp one last time. Silence fell. Not the oppressive silence of fear, but a quiet filled with memory, grief, and relief. War had taken homes, families, innocence. But through something as fragile as a letter, it had given something back. A guard raised a hand in farewell. No words were needed. Clara turned to the horizon. Sunlight spilled across the fields, gentle and warm. She inhaled deeply, as if she could breathe in life itself, and in her chest a single truth echoed. War took everything, but humanity gave it back. The women walked forward, laughter trailing behind them, like a ribbon tied to memory, never to be lost.